Good morning. My name is Jamie Hanson, and I will present the final briefing for our workshop team implementing S.27, the Wildlife Trafficking Enforcement Act of 2015. Today, I will describe our program and its purpose. First, we will introduce the wildlife trafficking issue and the bill S.27. Next, I will discuss program criteria, design, important actions, and program logistics, followed by the performance metrics that ensure our program's success. And finally, a brief program outlook into the future. The poaching of protected species and the illegal trade in wildlife products represent an international crisis that continues to escalate. This crime is one of the most lucrative illegal industries in the world, generating $8 to $10 billion in revenue. Wildlife products can command prices in the black market similar to highly illegal substances, such as heroin and cocaine. Poaching has expanded beyond small-scale actions to a coordinated business run by armed criminal syndicates. This is a global industry that is decimating populations of iconic wildlife, such as elephants, tigers, and many others. Here in this figure, one can see that many biodiversity hotspots, those areas in red containing a high density of important species, are in close proximity to organized criminal or terrorist cells, encircled in black. This leads to exploitation of wildlife to support activities of organizations such as Al-Shabaab and ISIS. Consumers create market demand for illegal wildlife products such as ivory carvings, traditional medicines, food products, and a live animal pet trade. Many species in the trade are endangered and thus command high prices, enticing this criminal activity to meet illegal demand. S.27 is a bipartisan product of the efforts of two senators, Dianne Feinstein of California and Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, to address this serious issue. Their goal for this bill was to create enforcement powers and penalties associated with large-scale violations of the Endangered Species Act. Under S.27, these violations become predicate offenses, which can be investigated and prosecuted under statutes that were designed to target organized crime and terrorist activity. This bill also creates a species conservation fund fed by penalties and forfeitures collected from convictions. This program combines the provisions of S.27 with those of the National Strategy and Implementation Plan for Combating Wildlife Trafficking, initiated by President Obama's 2013 executive order. After consulting these documents, we designed 4 policy objectives of our program entitled Operation Tiger, including 1, to broaden the reach of the Endangered Species Act, 2, reduce prevalence of wildlife criminal activity in regions that are particularly threatened by this trade, 3, strengthen cooperative efforts around the globe to protect biodiverse areas, and 4, generate funds for conservation of impacted species. We consulted the executive order on combating wildlife crime to establish criteria by which we would decide the appropriate scale and scope of actions the program would undertake to meet these 4 objectives. We addressed multiple social, economic, and political concerns, of which I will present one example each. One of the economic criteria of our program requires our design align with our primary agency's budget, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. Our design must also meet the political criteria of promoting international enforcement and cooperation between nations. Finally, a social criterion requires the program create partnerships to achieve common goals in the United States and abroad, at all levels from national governments to small community grassroots organizations. After defining both the policy objectives and essential criteria that meet the mandates and align with the goals of both S.27 and the executive order, we outline necessary actions and logistics to ensure Operation Tiger's success. As part of Objective 1, we analyzed how best to enhance surveillance and enforcement capabilities to arrest participants of the trade who violate the Endangered Species Act. Second, to meet Objective 2, our program increases support for prosecuting violators who engage in this trafficking. Next, in meeting Objective 3, we create systems of consultative support for conservation organizations operating in impacted areas, partnership projects, and public communications. Finally, in Objective 4, Operation Tiger establishes a system to provide recommendations for funds collected from convictions under S.27. 7 specific action systems, seen here in green, have been specified for Operation Tiger, which you can see here align well with our 4 objectives in blue. Let's look at these main action systems of our program in more detail. Our program will enhance current capabilities to detect instances of wildlife trafficking and its network around the world. We engage the staff and finances of the Fish and Wildlife Service and partner agencies to identify and apprehend domestic and international participants that poach, ship, and sell wildlife, operating much like the investigation of U.S. sellers of rhinoceros horn that source these illegal goods from international providers, depicted here in this map. We also have established a uniform system of value attribution for illegal goods to support criminal case building by prosecutors within the Department of Justice. Furthermore, we will establish an accessible database that provides real-time information on trends in wildlife trafficking, which support cyber investigations such as the Fish and Wildlife Service's Operation Wild Web, an initiative working to address the online market for wildlife goods. Our program will also successfully engage organizations such as the Wildlife Conservation Society and grassroots local partners tackling the illegal wildlife issue. We will manage these partnerships with an eye on conveying the success of these initiatives to the public to both ensure best practices and to engage a global audience. Finally, we will employ the analysis of the already existent Federal Advisory Council on Wildlife Trafficking to make recommendations for use of funds generated from penalties. These funds will be awarded to internal and partner projects that work to conserve imperiled species. These actions will be nested in the structure of two federal government departments, the Department of the Interior and the Department of Justice, with specific agency offices executing actions. This includes the Fish and Wildlife Service Division of Economics, the Office of International Affairs, and the Office of Law Enforcement, the Department of Justice, Environment and Natural Resource Division's Environmental Crime Section, which you can see at the bottom, and the Federal Advisory Council on Wildlife Trafficking, seen at the top. As you can see, our program does not alter the current federal government organization. Our program does, however, strengthen communication pathways and coordination between agencies carrying out Operation Tiger. We have established staffing needs and leverage positions or duties allocated for initiatives of the Wildlife Trafficking Executive Order. These same staff will execute actions of our program. Additionally, financing will be met under current budget allocations for wildlife crime within the Department of Justice and the Fish and Wildlife Service. Great, so we've established the issue, program criteria, objectives, actions, and logistics. Now all that is left to do is to apply this to a one-year starter timeframe. Here you can see the 7 action systems I've discussed spread over quarters. We have planned to roll out the first phases of implementation for all 7 actions in year 1 of our program, all of which will be necessary to meet the 4 main objectives of Operation Tiger. Now we'll discuss the performance management system for the program, essential to its efficacy. To measure the program's success, we can look to short-term and long-term indicators of program action effectiveness. For example, to support the objective of reducing wildlife crimes in vulnerable regions, we can measure the number of criminal charges in the first year of our program that result from the investigation and case-building actions. To support the objective of strengthening collaboration to protect imperiled species due to the wildlife trade, we can measure the number of partner projects that result from Operation Tiger's action plan. A long-term metric example collected over the 1 to 3 year time span is shown in the tracking of real-time data about wildlife trade convictions. Similarly, a 5-year long-term metric should show vastly reduced poaching in regions and partner project areas, supporting the objective of strengthened collaboration to protect species. Having completed a program designed for year 1, what can we expect for the future in terms of next steps? First, we can use lessons learned to design a comparable program for the illegal trade of marine species involving the National Marine Fisheries Service that we call Operation Tiger Shark. Also, our performance management system generates reports that can be used to evaluate the status of Operation Tiger and adjustments for years 2 and 3. Finally, our team suggests that 2013 Wildlife Executive Order initiatives, the National Strategy and Implementation Plan for Combating Wildlife Trafficking, incorporate Operation Tiger results. We look forward to this program's implementation. The grave issue of wildlife trafficking requires a comprehensive response, employing the use of multi-agency collaboration and action. Our program accomplishes this ultimate goal efficiently, effectively, and with consideration for the complexity of the existing logistical framework. Thanks for your attention. I thank my faculty advisor, Melissa Wright, my workshop managers, Chelsea McGimsey and Brian Pellicor, and our entire workshop team. Questions are welcomed. Thank you.